And we're back with the TMCJ podcast. We are on segment 2, media. We actually got a couple things to talk about on this segment this week.
Yeah,
Because we did have movie night.
We did. We've just had so much stuff happen this week. It's been great.
That's going to be a jam-packed podcast. I mean, segment 1 already was pretty jam-packed.
Yeah.
Normally that's the easiest one to keep to time, but we went over, and honestly we probably could have gone for a lot longer.
Oh, yes. I mean, it was only 5 minutes over. That's quite impressive for us, to be honest. Only 5 minutes over.
Oh, man.
Where are we starting on the media?
Well, let's start with the movie that we both saw
Cool.
pretty recently. So the movie we
Troy.
watched, Troy, yes, the 2004. I think I guessed it was 2004 last week, and I never actually looked it up.
You're pretty good for 2004. I mean, the graphics were like...
Oh yeah, it was a beautiful movie for the time, and just excellent. So I've seen the movie before. It was my pick, so I will give my opinion second, but I want to hear your thoughts first because you hadn't seen it.
Okay, so as something that I've said previously and throughout that film, the younger prince of Troy absolutely hated him as a character.
Paris is his name, by the way.
Is it?
Yeah, his name is Paris.
What? Really? But like, hang on. So how? I don't know. I'm gonna have a question that's gonna be probably really dumb. So maybe I won't say it. But like,
the two princes of Troy are Hector and Paris. The younger one
Hector,
is Paris.
Normal name for that time, but Paris? Like, was Paris
I think that's
back
his...
in the time of Troy?
Well, that may be where the name Paris comes from. I have no idea.
Oh. Well, that's not a good thing, I don't think, personally. Was not a fan of his character. He single-handedly was responsible for every death that happened. And he's also, like, he committed to a fight and then he ran away from it. So, no respect in my book. And he survived. He's like one of the very few main characters that kind of survived after the film, and he like was the least deserving of it.
Yeah, is that the lesson? Be a pussy, you'll live.
Well, yeah, I guess live hard, die young, or live like a little bitch and survive. That being said, like the leader of Troy, I like that old man. He was cool, even if he was misguided by his certain members of his congregation. And I was pretty sad when he died, because I mean the whole scene where he went to the enemy and kissed the hands of the one who murdered his son, that was pretty touching.
Should preface this, there's going to be a lot of spoilers in this, but the movie's 16 years old. If you haven't seen it already, go out and see the fucking movie. And honestly,
also, if you haven't seen the movie, you probably won't understand what we're talking about.
And the other thing is, it's been spoiled for the last 5,000 years. Like, the movie follows the Trojan War, the Iliad, if you don't know, which is an ages-old story. But there will be spoilers. But the scene Blue's talking about, Hector duels Achilles outside of the gates of Troy and loses, and Achilles, still bereaved over the death of his cousin, drags Hector behind his chariot in the sand, not giving him any proper burial rites, and just is going to leave him to rot. But Priam, the king of Troy, goes out, sneaks out in just normal robes into Achilles' tent, and does that. Kisses. He says, I've done what no man on earth has endured. I've kissed the hands of the man who murdered my son, just to get his son's body back, and they have this little peace moment.
Yeah, and Hector was one of my favourite characters, I got to admit. Also a big fan of Sean Bean.
He plays Odysseus.
I really hope that they, maybe they did, maybe they didn't, that Sean Bean, stars in The Odyssey. That came immediately after this in history, I'm pretty sure.
Yep. The
So
Iliad
it was
and
the
the
journey
Odyssey.
back
Yep.
after the Trojan horse that Odysseus and his men on their ship, the Odyssey. I think the ship was called the Odyssey, wasn't it?
I don't know if the ship was called the Odyssey. It'd be kind of weird because the guy's name is Odysseus.
Well, yeah, that's yeah. I don't know. Um, Amazing stories if you want to look them up, because I mean I'm sure most people have heard them, like just things like the Cyclops. That's where that came from.
Yeah.
The Golden Fleece, um, the sirens that would bring men ashore and destroy their boats and eat them, kind of thing.
When they all get high on a poppy field.
Yeah, lots of interesting little stories built into that character. Which I mean, did they kind of do a?
I don't
I
know
don't
if they
say
did a
sequel,
movie.
'cause it sounds like it's cheapening it, but
Yeah, a sequel. I don't think they ever did. I think they just made Troy. It'd be really cool if they made like a follow up movie and cast him and just did that, but I don't think they did. We'll have to look it up after this, but because I don't. But yeah,
I know there are films of the Odyssey, just not with them.
so one of the things that but before we get into discussion about this is a good part for it. Sean Bean's character Odysseus, you said you did really like him. One point that I had, so I saw the movie in theaters when it first came out, and but then years and years later I was like, oh, I really like that movie, and I saw it Blu-ray director's cut on Amazon. It's on sale for like $15 or something like that. I was like, okay, I loved this movie as a kid. I'm gonna get it and take a look at it. So I grabbed it and watched it, and there's a lot of scenes in the director's cut, like they did the whole, like they enhanced it, made it look prettier and stuff. But there's a lot of scenes they cut out or that are put back in the director's cut that they're not like just. When we talked about the Blues Brothers, we talked about how a lot of the stuff they added in to the extended cut was just more crash scenes, more chase scenes. It didn't really add a lot to the story.
Filler.
Yeah. With this movie, it added a ton of like character depth and development. Like there's a whole other scene between the King of Sparta and Hector that establishes their characters better. There's more interactions between Hector and Paris that speaks to their dynamic.
This was not a short film either. Like even the cut version, we split into two watching because it was just too late at the night that we couldn't finish it all in one sitting.
2 hours, and I think the cut version is a little over 2.5 hours. The extended cut, I want to say, is just shy of 3 hours, so like 2 hours 45, 2 hours 50, something like that.
Yeah.
But one of the scenes, and this is why I bring up the director's cut, you would have loved this scene if you liked Odysseus as a character. Before he goes to try and recruit Achilles for the Trojan War, there's a whole scene where the messengers go to recruit him, Odysseus. And it's funny because like the two messengers go up and they find him sitting on a hill just playing with two dogs in just like a normal robe. And they ask him. They say they're seeking Odysseus, the king of Ithaca. Where is he, or something like that. And he's like, he says something like, oh, what should I care about that swine, or something like that. And there's like, you should have more respect for your king. And he says something along the lines of, it's like, respect. That man paws at my wife. He always drinks my wine and never pays. And then the messengers just like wave him off like, oh, fuck off. And then they start to walk away. And he just calls back and he's like, I certainly hope... Oh, what the hell is the guy's name? The king who starts the whole war.
Oh my god. Agamemnon.
Agamemnon, yeah. He's like, I certainly hope Agamemnon's... soldiers or I hope Agamemnon's generals are smarter than his messengers. And they turn back and they're like, what? And then he's like, you want me to help you fight the Trojans? And he's like, and then they realize, oh shit, this is the king.
Yeah.
And it starts off like, it gives more character development. It builds him up as like this clever like person, like this clever and trickster kind of guy. He has like this
I don't think he's particularly clever in the parts that I've seen him in the film.
Well, if you remember the scene between him and Achilles when they first meet up, and Achilles is like, play your tricks on me, but not my cousin.
I meant Achilles does not come over as particularly
Oh,
smart.
Achilles isn't. Yeah, he's a man of straight lines, as it were.
Mm-hmm. Not quite Ajax, but
Oh my God, Ajax.
on that way.
Ajax is a character I feel like we needed a little bit more of.
Yeah, like I said, I knew him because of Age of Mythology, and he was my favourite character in Age of Mythology. I can't explain why, he just was.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a shame that he died so fast, but he did die to my other favourite character in the film, so
Yeah, there you go.
it was pretty cool.
There were quite a few, and I do agree with you. Hector was also one of my favorite characters.
Mm.
And I'm pretty sure when I saw the movie in theater, I was 16 when I saw the movie in theaters. So I, oh, excuse me, I nearly just burped right into the microphone.
Lovely.
When I saw the movie, I'm pretty sure when I first saw Paris in the theaters, like, I went with one of my friends and her family, and I remember Paris was like dreamy. He was so hot and everything like that. I was like, he's such a fucking pussy.
He is hot, like the fucking Pirates of the Caribbean that he plays, the role he plays. Every role that he's been set in, he's meant to be the
pretty boy.
boat.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I kind of hate him for it because
Same
even
thing. He was in Lord of the Rings. He played Legolas.
This is true. Okay, in Lord of the Rings as Legolas, he was fucking awesome. But okay, I suppose that kind of breaks my rule. But
Well, yeah. 2 out of 3.
No. He in Lord of the Rings though, he was a witty character who was also, he had very strong morals. He was very honourable, and you don't see that in any of his, like the Pirates of the Caribbean or Troy.
I think you're right. It is a better, it's a better written character. Legolas was a more well developed, well defined character.
But they're all pretty boys, yeah.
They
Even
were all
Legolas.
pretty boys. Well, yeah, he played a fucking elf.
Yeah. A king of the elves.
But
or prince, actually.
Yeah.
There's a lot of princes.
He does actually. Well, he doesn't. Well, Pirates of the Caribbean, he's just a nobody pirate who's turned blacksmith apprentice.
But he's also kind of a prince in that.
He becomes a prince of the pirates.
Basically, yeah. I mean, considering Elizabeth is a queen.
Not a queen. She's the daughter of the governor of like a overseas British colony in the Caribbean. Which,
but, yeah, I don't know.
I guess the
she
local
got more
equivalent.
balls than him.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you definitely see that in the in that series. But I agree. Paris in that I don't know if it's been a long time since I've read the Iliad because we had to read it in school, the Iliad and the Odyssey.
Right.
And I did enjoy them at the time, but it's been years and years since I've actually read it. So I don't remember if Paris is portrayed as such a pussy in the actual original work, or if that's just a choice they made for the movie.
Yeah, there were a lot of choices that were subtly made for the movie, I think, that were quite obvious. So at the end, how I said how was it really the daughter of the king of Troy that stabs Agamemnon?
Right, yeah.
It seems a bit too
contrived,
colourful flavor text
the
for
thing is,
reality.
I think Hector and Paris's mother actually plays a bit more of a prominent role in the original work. Or maybe it was...
you don't see her at all in the movie.
Yeah, exactly. There was... it was either their mother or Briseis's mother. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. So, something I will say, and we're ragging on Paris in the movie quite a bit.
Yeah.
But I think they did a good job. He had a good character arc, even if he's not a very likable character. Because he starts off as this, wide-eyed youth who's just... He's not the firstborn son, so he doesn't have to worry about governing. He basically is just he practices archery, he rides around, bangs a lot of women, and then goes home and is just like the spoiled younger son.
Yeah.
But the whole like he falls in love for real with this woman who is married to the king of Sparta, takes her home, starts a massive war between Greece and Troy, and thinks that he can duel her former husband and win out, and he has a very rude awakening when this guy like beats the ever-loving shit out of him and almost kills him. And then by the end of the movie, he's sort of hardened himself a little bit, but even like right where he is at the very end, he shoots Achilles, like the pussy that he is. Even then, he's thinking that he's hardened himself and he understands things, and you can see it in his face at the end there, when Briseis and Achilles are embracing, even as Achilles is dying. It's like you can kind of see the wheels turning in his head, like he still didn't understand fully.
Yeah.
He has, I don't think he gets to the point where he's a fully matured person, but you can see him grow throughout the movie. So some credit there. He does get better. But
I'm not sure about that. But
I'm trying really hard to give him some credit. I'm really trying.
Yeah.
But I don't like it.
When it said he was going to fight the husband, I was like, oh, brilliant! It's going to be like he's gonna actually start doing something useful for a change, and then he fucks it up even worse. So I just lost all faith at that point.
Yeah. But
then
my God,
Achilles had just saved his sister from a lifetime of horrible things, and then he shoots Achilles. So
yeah,
even less respect.
Yeah, she was gonna end up being like a slave, and to Agamemnon.
Not good stuff. Yeah.
There are some really good moments and good one-liners in that movie. One of my favorite ones, we're talking about the duel between the King of Sparta and Paris. And one of my favorite lines is after he's kicked Paris's ass and Paris is like running over and hiding behind his brother's leg, when he just like looks up at the wall where his former wife is and just screams, "Is this what you left me for?"
Yeah.
That line just, it amuses me. Like, probably not for the right reasons, but because again, the guy's an asshole, a boorish asshole. And one of the scenes that's cut out from earlier in the movie, which establishes just how much of like a prick this the King of Sparta is. In the scene where they're having that dinner in Sparta, and it's they're drinking a peace and whatever, and Hector and Paris are there for the negotiations. After Paris is kind of before Paris has wandered off with the King of Sparta's wife, Hector and him are having a little bit of a conversation, and the dancers that come down, the King of Sparta. I'm saying the King of Sparta because I can't remember the guy's fucking name.
Agamemnon's brother, yeah.
Yeah, Agamemnon's brother. And he points out one of the dancers, and he's like, "Oh, what do you think of these?" and whatnot. And he's essentially offering Hector
an alternative.
Offering Hector like, would you like to, have one of these women tonight, essentially. Yeah. And he's like, thank you, it's very kind, but my wife waits for me in Troy. And the Spartan king just points to his wife, who's still at the table, and goes, "My wife waits for me right there." And he's like, it's like, "Don't you understand? Wives are for breeding, for making little princes. Enjoy yourself tonight." And then Hector just does a very, very shrewd, like, political statement there, and just tips his cup up, and he goes like, "You make excellent wine in Sparta," and he just takes a sip, as in like, "No, I'm happy with the drink." Like, it was it establishes right off that
Yeah, they do a pour one out for the gods, which
yeah,
I found quite funny.
I really like that tradition too. I thought that was really cool. And they do it several times in the movie.
Uh,
Um, but you know, I thought that scene again. This is why I like the director's cut, because they add a lot of character building moments. Because that scene establishes Agamemnon's brother, the king of Sparta, as again more of a boorish asshole, and why that marriage was not like why his wife wanted to run away from that marriage. And it establishes Hector as this shrewd, thoughtful person.
hmm.
Um, yeah, so I could go on and talk about that movie quite a bit because I really do love it.
Well, did we have any other topics for the this segment?
So if we're done talking about final thoughts on Troy, and then I did have one other point on media. If you didn't have anything else,
Go
but
for
yeah, I'll give you final thought. First time seeing it.
it. I liked all the characters. I thought it looked pretty good for the time that it was made, and I like that it's, although it does deviate slightly, it was mostly historically accurate.
And I think that's where I'll echo that for my final thought on it. I agree. That's one of the reasons I enjoy it. I'm a big history buff, and while it does take some creative license with the original history, it does a very good job sticking closely to historical accuracy, and trying to stay as close to the source material as possible. So yeah, great movie. So I did have other things I've been watching this week that I thought I could talk about, unless there was something really pressing for you that you wanted to get out.
No, go ahead.
So I've been watching the original Star Trek movies.
Right.
Because I realized they were on Amazon Prime for free. I skipped the first one. I don't even know what it is, but I wanted to watch Wrath of Khan because I've heard that it's like the classic Star Trek movie, and it's really good. Now, full disclosure, I'm not really a Star Trek fan. Like, I've never seen the original series, and it was only like 2 years ago I watched Star Trek: The Next Generation for the first time. Great series. But it was the second Star Trek series. That's the one with Patrick Stewart playing Jean-Luc Picard. Great series, but I never watched the originals with Kirk and Spock and all them. I saw the remakes when they came out, and I saw those years ago when they first came out.
Yeah, I saw a couple of the movies, but it was kind of before my time, I think. It was...
Oh yeah, they
I don't
were.
know.
The original series was in the 70s. But these movies came out. Wrath of Khan, the first one, came out in 1982, I want to say. I watched it. It was actually quite good. And then that made me want to watch the one that was a follow-up to it, the third movie. I like it has some cheesy moments because it's clearly based on like kind of this 70s low budget sci-fi series. But because it had those kind of cheesy low budget moments, the writing kind of had to stand up on its own a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I think they do a really good job of that, especially in the first movie, having this it's less so the Star Trek Into Darkness is the remake of Wrath of Khan, the one they did in the new series, like with all the new actors, came out in like 2012 or something like that.
Gotcha.
And that is much more an action movie where it's like two big powerhouse people essentially just having a giant punch up in space is the way I could describe the remake of it. The original one is much more a battle of wits. I found like there's a lot more, like watching through it, there was a lot more intrigue and like moves and counter moves, like double agents and trying to get the upper hand on somebody using any advantage they can. It's between Khan and Kirk.
An information war more than...
Yeah, it's more like two intellectual powerhouses trying to outthink each other. And there are action scenes in it and some, but they're more conservatively distributed throughout the movie. Like, it isn't just one giant exploding spectacle after another.
Yeah, gotcha. It's not a Transformers movie.
Exactly. It's not made by Michael Bay.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen much. So whenever I think of Star Wars,
Star Trek.
I just insulted everyone. I was gonna say.
Whenever I think of Trek Wars,
space adventures kind of thing, I either go to Star Wars or to Red Dwarf.
I've actually seen Red Dwarf.
I love Red Dwarf.
I think I might be the only person in America that's seen the Red Dwarf, but sorry, go on.
Yeah, it's quite British. And a very, very old series, Red Dwarf is, but it's very funny. Actually, I don't know, do you find it funny? I feel like a lot of the jokes are probably aimed towards the British public.
They are, and when I watched it, there were some things that made me laugh or entertain me, but there were quite a few things where I could tell the series was trying to be funny, and I just didn't get it.
Yeah, I think there's also like the age thing. Like, if I watched it now, I definitely would not find it as funny because a lot of the jokes are time-based.
Yeah.
And also, you probably just couldn't get away with some of the things that they said because of, snowflake culture.
Yeah.
But, sorry, that's totally away from Star Trek. But I don't really have any, I never watched Star Trek or the, what's the Something Troopers?
Oh, Starship Troopers.
Yeah, I never watched any of them.
Starship Troopers is an interesting one. I never watched it until, long after it came out. That was another one I only watched in the last few years. And I actually went through the audiobook. By the way, the original work, so much different than the movie. Other than, the name of the main character, which I think even that they alter. The movie is fairly different. Like in the movie Starship Troopers, pretty good movie. The original one. I think the remakes got kind of they became cheesy action movies, but the original one, pretty good in terms of character writing. The story is surprisingly deep. The book is less a work of fiction and more a book on philosophy, I'd say.
Right.
I feel, after going through the book, I feel like it was just a way for the author to write down his political philosophy.
Yes. Are there, actual good lessons in it, then? I could take away from it?
I think, because... So, the book, Starship Troopers, is much more kind of a treatise on self-reliance and personal responsibility and discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Because the author is very clearly of a libertarian mindset. He's somebody...
Is this... I'm thinking I'm getting series confused in my head. Is this the one where they go through, portals, wormholes?
That's Stargate.
Oh, fuck me. Yeah,
that's Stargate.
Okay,
I'm talking about Starship Troopers. Stargate, another excellent series. There are three of them. The Stargate SG-1, Stargate Atlantis, and Stargate Universe. I've seen all three series the whole way through. Pretty good. I actually think I talked about Stargate Universe on an earlier podcast because I had just finished it.
Probably. We do repeat ourselves a little bit.
I mean, we've been going on long enough to repeat ourselves. Look at that.
Yeah. Was this 12th episode?
Yes, we're on episode 12 now. Yeah.
Yeah, we've been talking for almost 20 hours now.
Oh, come on. We've been talking much longer than that. We just have only been recording it for 20 hours.
Well, yes. Man. Almost a full day of content for someone to just sit and listen to our voices drone on.
Listen to the dulcet tones as we give our random opinions on nonsensical topics.
Politics that are from a fictional world, so don't really matter, and also occasionally in the real world.
Oh yes.
Sorry, I took you off topic there.
No, it's fine. We're kind of coming up on the end here, but point being, yeah, if you get the chance, even if you don't really know much about the original Star Trek series, like if you haven't watched it, I've watched 0 episodes from the original Star Trek. I didn't even watch the first Star Trek movie. I just jumped right into Wrath of Khan, and it was still a very good movie. I just had the basic knowledge of who Kirk was and who Spock was, and
that's one of the things that scares me off from these. Like, I know we've just passed the 30-minute mark, but much like Warhammer, it's such a big thing that I'm kind of scared to go in any point, because if I start too early, then I'll be bored, sick before I get to the more recent stuff, and if I go in halfway through, I feel like I've missed important plot points. Would you say that you can go in any point throughout Star Trek, or do you think there's particular points that you have to go over before you can watch the rest of it?
Well, okay, so like I said, I can't say anything about the original series because I haven't seen it. But that movie, Wrath of Khan, I think as long as you have a basic understanding of, like, this is Spock, this is Kirk, and this is basically what... Actually, you don't even really need to know much about how the Star Trek universe functions, really, for that movie. Like, you could just jump right in, and it'd still be a good movie.
Yeah, as long as you know the basic roles that they perform, then it's something that you can follow along, even if you don't know the backstory of the particular character.
Right, because like I said, that movie is less... It's less about the universe and less about the any pre-existing plots, and more just about kind of a character drama, a battle of wits between these two people. Then the only other thing I'd say and again, with the series, I can't say much about the original one because I haven't seen it. But with Next Generation, I watched it the whole way through. That being said, I watched it the whole way through over the course of like 2 years, so there was a lot of breaks in between. But most of the episodes are pretty self-contained, as long as you have a basic understanding of like who some of the characters. Even that you don't need a lot of the time. There are some plots that go over multiple episodes, some character development that happens throughout the series. But Star Trek: The Next Generation, I feel like you could jump in just about anywhere.
Nice.
Probably not the same for Stargate. Those tend to have long-arching plots that go throughout the entire series.
Gotcha.
There's a lot of good sci-fi out there. There's a lot of bad sci-fi out there, too.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
I always kind of think of it as just like those kind of programs, kind of like Space D&D.
Yeah.
It's always just you've got the party, you know all the characters, and each session there's a new issue that has to be sorted.
Yeah, exactly.
But we are running over, so...
We are seriously running... I mean, we've run the gambit. We went from 5,000 years ago to a few hundred years in the future.
Yeah, Troy to the future.
And beyond. Okay. What is that from? I don't know.
What?
I quoted something from a sci-fi series.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I have no idea. I'm not going
to infinity and beyond.
It's Buzz Lightyear.
Buzz Lightyear, yeah.
It's quoting Buzz Lightyear. I don't know
what a role model.
I don't know why I thought that was from Star Trek. That's cool.
Oh boy.
Oh my God.
Anyway,
with that horrible misquotation at the end, we're gonna end segment 2 there. Get hyped for segment 3 because we're actually we have a theme for this one. We're playing a game. If you don't know what it is, well, we'll explain it at the beginning of the next segment. But we're going to be playing a game where we read through a unique short story known as The Eye of Argon. So stay tuned for that. But thank you for listening.